Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show. Today is Tuesday, August 25th, 2015. Joining me now, as always, on Tuesdays, Andrew Malcolm, the Prince of Twitter, at AHMalcolm. Also, at investors.com/Andrew Malcolm, the wizard of investors.com, I guess. Well, I'm just going to come up with all sorts of new names for you, Andrew. I mean,
Yeah, really. I've got to tell my wife to be sure and listen again so she knows what to say to me.
Got to know the scorecard. You're going to have this whole list of titles.
When we used to go to these blogging conferences and I'd be on a panel, every time I would bring home, or even before blogging, I would bring home the nameplate. And so it would say Andrew Malcolm. And at the first dinner home, when the family sat down, I would put it in front of me so they knew what to call
awesome.
me.
That's awesome. I love that. That's a great story.
And I told it to Garrity, and he said, I did that, and it worked too. So, because I'd been away so much that they would need to know who this guy was at the end of the table. Oh, hey,
why not?
Anything for a laugh.
Anything for a laugh. Absolutely. Including, running for president. No, I'm just
really
kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's
Donald Trump still
that,
on top of the polling in places like New Hampshire and South Carolina. I don't know how he's doing in Iowa. I'd suspect probably not as well. But if you've got North Carolina and Iowa, you're doing all right. Of course, this is still really, really early. But are you surprised about his staying power in the race? Are you surprised that he's managed to stay on top this long?
I guess everyone's supposed to say yes. He's the usual. He's a phenomena, and Americans love phenomena. They love entertainment. They love fame, especially, but they don't elect him to anything outside of California, where they elected Ronald Reagan and Arnold Schwarzenegger. But
and George Miller.
And George Miller, yeah, okay, he wasn't famous to me, but he's obviously and this is a keen grasp of the obvious. He's tapping into something volatile. And I understand that. I get that the disaffection with politicians as usual, and especially those having anything to do with Washington. And I would add New York to that because that's where the media that everyone says they hate is based. But it is, as you said, so early. This is national polls don't matter for beans because they're polling places that won't be voting for 10 months. Some of them, it's name recognition. He's doing and saying all the right things for television, and I personally, I don't believe a word he says. To me, he's like a taller Barack Obama with a lot more hair and money. Talk is cheap. He's saying what people want to hear. That's what Obama did in 07 and 08. And it appears that they're setting themselves up to fall for it again. Now, having said that, just the same problem Trump has as Biden has, which is there's no organization there. He has a lot of people. He can hire them. Ross Perot hired people very quickly, even later in the system than this.
Yeah, February, I think, if I remember correctly, is when Perot really started launching the third-party bid.
Which is funny, because I always say this, but I think it's so revealing that John Kennedy announced his 1960 campaign on January 3rd of 1960. And here we are, 4 or 5 months before that, and we're talking about how early it is. And Obama announced his original candidacy, and so did Hillary in February the year before the election. So that was what, 19 months?
Yeah.
So it's very, very early. National polls are name recognition.
Name recognition and media attention, I think, really.
And media attention.
Yeah.
And the media, it's summertime. The media hasn't had Obama to kick around or to fawn over for a couple of weeks now. ISIS isn't quiet, but it's quiet as far as Americans know from their media.
Yeah, they just plowed under one of the sites at Palmyra, which didn't get hardly any coverage at all.
No. Which is scary because that means they're going to come up with something else. They're always coming up with new ways, having people lean over a bomb in the earth and blow the bomb up, tie the bomb to them. I mean, it's hard to talk about. We have the Planned Parenthood scandal going on.
New video today.
Shootings in churches, and so here's Trump, who was very good at a reality TV show, running a reality TV show campaign. And I'm not diminishing it. I'm just describing it. And it's revealing to me that when you describe it the way it is, people get angry, as they did over my column this morning, because they know in their heart that it's not real, that it's a reality show that they're being entertained by. It's like The Bachelor or The Apprentice or any one of those shows. But they really want to believe it now. And Trump is playing them like a first violinist at the Boston Pops.
Yeah, let's talk about your column today, because you're talking, I mean, you're analyzing the polling to show that there's a huge danger here if Trump-mentum lasts.
Trump-mentum, yeah. Well, there is a danger, and Americans, because in American companies they're thinking about the next quarter, but this is a much longer term danger. You may recall that I know you do, that Republicans, even though he was dead, Republicans benefited from Lincoln and the Civil War with the blacks for generations of getting their support as their liberators. Then President McKinley was another Republican who was very intent on earning the support of immigrants as new Americans, taking advantage of it and creating, what was it, 1, 2, 2 and 2, 4, 5. So at least 5 or 6 presidential terms in a row for his party. The same thing can happen to Democrats with Hispanics, and now a lot of the Trump people will say, who cares? And it's true that Hispanics vote at a lesser rate than white non-Hispanics and blacks, who go about 2 out of 3 of them, or 60% of them, tend to vote, and Hispanics is under 50% at the moment. But we've got, 316 million Americans? About 53 million of them are Hispanic origin. Now, Trump is broadly stereotyping 53 million Americans. Okay, that's a lot. 11 million, roughly, estimate, 12 million, 13 million, 14 million, are illegal immigrants. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. You take that away from 53 million, you still got more than 40 million, mostly law-abiding, hardworking, legal American citizens. And we're dismissing them, or he's dismissing them in this whole bunch of criminals that Mexico is exporting. Now, that's very dangerous, and I understand why they would resent it, and I understand also why Americans, the word amnesty drives them crazy. I can't for the life of me understand how the plans that some of the Republican candidates have in mind can be described as amnesty because of all the hoops that people have to jump through. But that's where we are now in our dysfunctional political dialogue that we don't have in this country. And it's very disturbing, and it's very frightening. Republicans, they could, it would be harder, but the Republicans could win next year without the Hispanic vote. If you, as Gallup just did, if you ask Hispanics about the Republican candidates, you find out that of all of them, Hispanics have only heard of two of them. A majority of Hispanics only know two candidates, Donald Trump, and they like him 14%, and they dislike him 65%. And the other one is Jeb Bush, who speaks Spanish and is married to a Mexican native, and they like him, but it's only plus 11%. So
how about Rubio? Where does Rubio come in? I mean, there's a Spanish.
Rubio is plus 5. Interesting to me.
Interesting.
Is Carly Fiorina is see, that would be Trump, Bush, Rubio, Carly is 4th. She's plus 3. Everybody else is not a majority of them know about him, and they have no reason at the moment to care. So they're playing, and here's another thing. Since 2000, the non-white or the white non-Hispanic population and blacks has grown 5.8%. Since 2000, the Hispanic population of the United States has grown 49%. So it's huge, and it's growing. It's the fastest growing.
Right.
So never mind amnesty, never mind racial bias, ethnic bias, anything. This is the fastest growing group, and we're not going to deport. We're not going to deport 11 million, let alone 40 plus million people who are small businessmen, hard workers, taxpayers, with their children in school, and they're sending money back to Mexico. When I was a kid, we had a lot of Eastern European refugees in Cleveland, and they sent money back to Eastern Europe. But they were becoming American, and their
Right.
children ended up speaking less Polish and Czech and English, and that's the way this works. So it's very dangerous for Republicans to write them off. It's possible to win now without many Hispanics. Now you look at it; it is possible to win it with Hispanics. Bush had 40% of the Hispanic vote in 2004.
Right.
He got 48% in Texas when he ran as governor. Romney slipped from 40 of Bush to 27 for himself. Wait, he didn't win. So you politically, I don't care if they're Martians. If they're voting, you have to, as politicians, the system requires that you pay attention to them.
Which doesn't mean necessarily pandering, but you do have to spend some time explaining what your position actually is.
Right. Are we pandering to talk about issues that are important to the South? Is it pandering? It's pandering to the U.S. when politicians go to Iowa and talk about ethanol.
Yes, it is. It's very much
but
pandering.
It's not pandering in Iowa. It's an important issue for people who are working hard and growing corn, which is being sucked up not by the cattle feeding business, but by the ethanol business. So somebody's important issue is another person's pander.
Well, and that's the reason why. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, though, Andrew, that that Trump picked up on immigration is because people weren't. Some people felt like their position wasn't being represented firmly enough, and I mean,
and Washington has failed at handling these issues,
right?
And everybody's angry at Washington, and I understand that. George W. Bush ran to change it was different words, but he wanted to change Washington. He didn't, obviously. But that's a chronic thing that we have. But guess what? If you're working in Washington, and 90% of you in the Senate and 80% of you in the House are getting reelected, despite all the complaints and noise about how Washington sucks, what's the message? The message is they're just talking.
Well,
okay, so until we start unelecting these people, but the Americans take the easy road. Instead of unelecting somebody or actually organizing a campaign to recall somebody or to get another candidate, those things are awesome in a huge sense, undertakings. Instead of doing that, they're just kvetching all the time. They're bitching and moaning about it, and along comes somebody who's smart enough to try to make a deal with them and says all that they want to hear about it and about the people in Washington. And then so they jump on him as a president. I mean, just think about it. A president of the United States, there's a handful of I'm trying not to dismiss any of the Republican candidates. There's a handful of them that if you think about them in the Oval Office with the nuclear weapons at their disposal, you kind of go, ooh, geez, I don't know. And Trump is one of them in my book. Now, some people may go, yeah, right, boy, he'll take care of Iran. Okay, but it's not really that simple. People don't want to hear things that are complicated. Television has trained us to have a short attention span, and we don't do complex anymore. So it's very depressing. It's very demoralizing. If you think about the country and the long-term future, I understand politicians. I covered George Wallace back in the 60s, and he was tapping into a vein of anger, and Ross Perot was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
In 92.
Yep, he was. And 96, too. I mean, let's face it, he was still resonating in 96. And that was even after the first 4 years of
you kind of forget about that time. But
he
in
wasn't
92,
as impactful,
and I wrote about this two months ago. I wrote about Joe Biden was going to run, and I wrote that Trump is a stalking horse for Hillary Clinton. What did Ross Perot do? Okay. He took 21% of the conservative vote away from George H.W. Bush. People were angry at him for being Washington and going back on his tax word. But forget H.W. Bush. The result was that we elected Bill Clinton for 2 terms. And he did some good things, and he did some terrible things, long-term bad things, as I guess all presidents do. So the result of Donald Trump, I predict, well, I don't predict things, but Donald Trump could, I don't think he could possibly become the nominee, but if he did, I don't think he could possibly become the nominee, and because he couldn't, he has the money to run a third party for his own self-aggrandizement.
Yes, he does.
And what happens? Elect another Clinton.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to spend it.
Or do the same thing he did, the same thing that happened after 2 terms of Reagan, was the 3rd term of Reagan with H.W. Bush, and we'll get a 3rd term of Clinton with Biden. Or maybe Clinton.
Well, let's talk about Joe Biden, because this is now the hot topic. And Andrew Malcolm, by the way, is the leading anthropological expert on Bidenus gaffus, which is, I believe, his actual genus and species names. Bidenus gaffus, our esteemed Vice President, Uncle Joe. I mean, Andrew is a keen observer of all things Biden. And I'm not sure that that's a compliment, actually, to tell you the truth. Now that it's out of my mouth,
that's right.
I'm not sure.
What am I doing in my adult life paying attention to this guy?
Well, I mean, right now, it looks like this guy's going to jump in the race at age, 72? And I mean, and he's only slightly older than
73.
73, yeah. So he's only slightly older than everybody else in the room. I mean, it's
on his side, and he's older than John McCain was when Biden said he's way too old to be president.
Right.
This I suspect we're going to see this on Republican ads someday if Biden goes in. I don't think Joe is going to jump in. I think it's going to look like he's dragged in.
Yeah,
that's what he wants.
He wants to be drafted.
He doesn't want to be a challenger. In fact, there's that YouTube video of him at a town hall in September 2008, shortly after he got picked, walking around the room in his shirt sleeves talking to the folks and saying that actually Hillary Clinton would have been a much better vice president candidate, that Obama should have picked her. And, the crowd saw it as, I think, what Biden intended is a kind of a humble statement. But Obama didn't. And he saw it as at least a chastisement, if not worse. And Biden was grounded. Now, the friendly media didn't cover Biden being grounded by the media like they covered Sarah Palin being grounded for her missteps. And now Obama talks about Biden as if he's some kind of a father figure, which is politically a nice thing to do, but it also raises the age issue, and it also brings back one of the reasons that this country has suffered for the last 6+ years is that Barack Obama didn't have a father, and so he didn't learn a lot of things that fathers teach, which is responsibility, among other things, and taking responsibility for what you do. And you won't hear Obama ever do that. It's just not in his makeup. He can't do it.
The
whole thing is a mess, and I don't know why we're talking about it because everything's hopeless, Ed.
So Andrew Malcolm officially endorses Sweet Meteor of Death for 2016. By the way.
Sweet Meteor.
Jazz Shaw is now in the chat room. He can get word to Doug Mataconis, and Andrew Malcolm is officially on board of Team SMOD. Yeah, Joe Biden running for a third term is sort of like one of the signs of the apocalypse, I think, actually. So
for the third time.
For the third time. I mean, this is not a guy who runs for president very well. His first time out was in '87. He got caught plagiarizing speeches from Neil Kinnock by E.J. Dionne when he was with the New York Times, and it ended up dropping out. He tried again in 2007. And on his first day in the race, made his biggest splash of the entire campaign by describing Barack Obama as clean and articulate. Not exactly a world leader in terms of intelligent campaigning. Even when he was running for VP, he was talking about that 3-letter word, JOBS.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's
talking about in a 7-Eleven, how you can't go to a 7-Eleven without seeing a Packy.
Yeah, or what was the other thing? Recalling in 1929 how FDR went on television to calm President Franklin Roosevelt went on television to calm the nerves of Americans during the Wall Street crash, which would have been news to President Herbert Hoover and I think 3 people who had a television set back. I mean, they were experimenting with television back in those days, but it wasn't it took another decade for it to be even commercially viable. So, let's have Joe Biden in the race. I mean, it looks. I think that the fact that Joe Biden looks attractive, Andrew.
Is that a comment?
Yeah.
That a guy who's even older. Well, so is Bernie Sanders. It was even older than Hillary. Let's see, by 7 years older than Hillary. So he's 74.
I think he'll be 74 on Election Day. I think is what it is. I think it'll be 74 on election day. I'll check it out. Continue
Hillary
on with your
will
thought.
be 69.
Yeah.
So it's a mess, and I don't know.
Yeah, he's 72 now. He'll be 74 just after election day.
We redid my office. I used to have all these little stickers with all my useful stuff on it, everybody's birth date, but
somebody cleaned.
Yeah.
Somebody cleaned. Doggone it. So he's 72. He'll be a 73 this November. Joe Biden.
It looks great.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, I can't use it, but it's great looking.
I love the certificates behind you. I think I see the Reader's Digest lifetime subscription certificate.
What is it? There's my War College degree. There's my something else. Yeah, a couple of awards.
Yeah, it's very nice, very nicely done. By the way, it looks great. It's a great backdrop.
My wife just came in and said an expletive.
It's much better than my messy bookshelf behind me. To my, I guess it would be to my left and to your right.
Yeah.
To your left, actually, and my right. Never mind.
So it's
So we're talking about Biden. I'm sorry, we're talking about Biden.
No. Every campaign in recent times has been more frothy, I think. Then there are moments of substance, but it's been frothy. And part of it has to do with the media, and each media has its own needs and demands. Television, when I was a little boy, we didn't have television. That's how old I am. For the first decade or so, people had to be good speakers on the radio. Good speaking voices and good cadence and vocabulary and so on. Then along came television, and that started shaping who succeeded. The first convention on TV was Eisenhower's in '52, and I watched that with my dad. Eisenhower, was not telegenic, and the question is, would Abraham Lincoln? Could he be elected in a television age just by the way he looked? And I'm not sure that he could these days. Television affects it. Different parts of the population are like different things that they see on TV. I don't think anybody would argue that women look at television differently than men do, and so they're attracted to vote for people who look a certain way on television, and men are like, oh, there's no way. So it's normal, I guess. It's dynamic, which is what makes American society so exciting and interesting. But at the moment, we're not seeing the substance. We're just seeing people sort of washing back and forth. And I would point out that if Trump is such an explosive political personality, how come he's never been above 26%? So you're not going to win an election. Even Mike Huckabee, who went nowhere, he lasted a long time in '08, but he didn't go anywhere. And he's back. He got only 34% in Iowa. He won Iowa with 34%. Trump can't get to 30 in the current polls. So it's not. I don't know if you call it a boomlet, but it's not this nationwide tide of whatever you would call it, Trump mania or Trump insanity.
Trumpmentum.
Trumpmentum. Yeah.
Trumpmentum.
Well, that's what I said in the column this morning. I said it's perfectly ridiculous to even contemplate Donald Trump as the eventual nominee of the party of Abraham Lincoln. But let's just say for a moment.
All right. So, did you see him restart the Fox News war last night and this morning?
Yeah. I didn't see it, but I know about it. I don't fighting I don't get it for him because I don't
He's gotten a
get
lot
it.
of he's gotten a lot of
It
good.
always works to fight the media.
Yeah.
Hillary's doing that too, and Hillary's people, her surrogates are trying to do that. And Spiro Agnew did it. So this is a tried and true. And if you're in the media, you're sitting in the room, they start going on you, and you go, yeah, yada yada yada. But it means nothing. You have to have a bad guy. Think about stories in life. Any of your stories, biblical, TV stories, whatever. You have to have a bad guy. Even Sesame Street has Oscar, who's lovable, but he's supposed to be a bad guy. So, and he appeals to that contrary side of everyone who's ever been a kid.
Yeah.
Not that I would know about being contrary, but now my wife is going to come in here in a sec. Come on, but anyway,
you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. I don't. I guess he doesn't have anything else. I mean that's what comes to my mind is you got nothing from Obamacare. You got nothing from the last 6 or 7 years that you want to talk about except Megyn Kelly. He sent out this tweet last night. I thought Megyn Kelly did better when she was on her 11-day unscheduled vacation. I liked her show better. It's so gratuitous. And even if I liked the guy, even if I thought he was presidential, and when somebody's doing something like that, it's sort of like, third grade on the playground. Yeah, well, she said this to me. Oh, did she really? It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Well, why? Especially 19 days later. I mean, this has been going on for a while. I mean,
yeah, no, I know but it quieted down right after Trump tried to portray it as Fox come crawling to him with the Roger Ailes phone call, which was an inopportune thing for a news chief to do, but I guess you can't argue with success.
Well, now he came out today, though, swinging. He said, that Trump should apologize, that he's proud of Megyn Kelly and thinks that she's one of the best journalists in America, and that, Trump was basically talking out his rear end. So Trump then after that...
that's not new.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Trump after that kind of came back and said, I disagree that Megyn Kelly is a good journalist, but maybe she'll improve. So that she meets the standards of a fine network like Fox News. But
and if you're looking, the guy could buy the media himself. But if you're looking at here we are talking about it.
Yep.
Here the media are consumed by it, writing about it, about a meaningless tiff started by one person and continued by one person until he draws somebody else. It's trolling.
Yeah.
He's just trolling. It's not trying to be a president. And they all, pretty much all of them, criticize the media, but a lot of them immediately pivot back to substance and what they would do, because it's their chance to talk to people who are watching that media and to get their program out. I mean, to watch how Fiorina handles these interviews, and she does a lot of them because she doesn't have the money to buy as much TV as Jeb Bush and some of the others. But watch how, in those interviews, how they ask her about something that could be distracting, and she's so disciplined, which I find impressive, but she's so disciplined, bringing it back to, yes, this is going on. Yes, Donald Trump is doing this, and boy, he sure didn't send me any donations. But you know what I would do? And then she's right back on to her thing. And I think that accounts for her jump in the polls. She's now up in the middle of the pack. I did another column this week. It may not be quite enough to get her on the CNN show, which is terrible, in my opinion, not to have her on the prime time debate. But Larry Sabato has an idea and I know CNN won't change what they're doing now. They're too invested in it. CNN is doing it by 14 different polls from the middle of July to the 10th of September, an average. Fiorina and some others are doing better since the first debate, but that's 3 weeks out of that period that they were ciphers. They weren't anything. And that is, as anyone who's flunked a midterm and then tried to do well on the final, you know when you're trying to do that average with that much of a hole, that's very hard to do. But there are ways around it. CNN hasn't said how they're going to do the debates. They could do back-to-back, both in prime time, and eliminate that concern. Larry Sabato's got a wonderful idea, I think, that would be so TV, and that is you do you take the 17. Well, I guess it's 16 now. Gilmore doesn't qualify. He's not at 1% yet. But you take the 16 candidates. You have 2 debates back-to-back, both of them in prime time. And the morning of the debates, right on TV, like a lotto ball or Powerball drawing, you draw straws, or you have a lottery balls coming out, and that determines who gets on which debate. And that eliminates which I think would be a real problem for CNN and the RNC. That eliminates the problem of once again shunting the sole female candidate to the secondary debate.
Yeah, to the second tier. Andrew, we're just about out of time here, so we're going to have to get the jokes of the week from you now. The jokes of the week.
You will be surprised probably to know, Ed, that a lot of them have to do with Trump.
I'm shocked. Shocked,
yeah,
I tell you.
Shocked, he
shocked.
said. Conan O'Brien said scientists have actually grown a tiny human brain in a lab. And guess what? It's already come out in support of Trump.
Oh, ouch.
Hillary Clinton, Conan said, Hillary Clinton's new ad stresses her humble economic background. She says, just 15 years ago, my family and I were evicted from our house.
Yeah, that is a sad economic statement. Yeah, so don't forget they were dead broke when they were evicted too.
Yeah. Let's see. And Seth Meyers said in an interview, Trump says that he's not crossed the line of appropriateness, that he's very disciplined and reasonable in his interviews, and that you can read Trump's entire interview in this month's issue of Jugs magazine.
Oh my gosh.
I just that one, I couldn't stop laughing at that one.
Not that any of us knows what that's about.
Yeah, well, it's what I heard about.
It's a home brewing. It's a home brewer's magazine, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Finally, Conan said today was Bill Clinton's. It isn't today, but today was Bill Clinton's birthday. Hillary sent Bill an e-birthday card, and then out of habit, she immediately deleted it.
She sent it through Huma Abedin. I think that's
yeah.
Here's a joke for you, just as on the way out. Huma Abedin is complaining that Chuck Grassley has ruined her reputation. Anthony Weiner could not be reached for comment on Twitter, by the way. That unfortunately is not a joke. It's actually true. Huma Abedin is claiming that Chuck Grassley has... So
if we get Hillary Clinton, stand by for 4 more years of that.
Oh, yeah. There we go. At least 4. Andrew Malcolm, though, Andrew Malcolm is the prince of Twitter now and always. So you can find him on Twitter at AHMalcolm. And he's also at investors.com/Andrew Malcolm, where he's writing columns and blog posts all the time. Be sure to go to investors.com/Andrew Malcolm to find our good friend Andrew. And here every Tuesday on the Ed Morrissey Show, Tuesdays with Andrew. Andrew, thanks so much for being with us today, and we will talk to you again next week, sir.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye, everybody.
All right, Andrew Malcolm has been our guest for this part of the Ed Morrissey Show, and next up we're going to get Kristina Ribali. I'm going to call her right now, and we're going to talk to Kristina from the Foundation for Government Accountability, thefga.org, and Kristina is now coming on the line. Welcome to the show, Kristina.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
And I got to get the right card up there. There we go. Ah, there we are. And I'm not getting your video, but I've got a great headshot of you. So either way works.
Let's see if we can't get the video.
There we go. There's the video. Kristina Ribali, my friend, and we saw her at Red State Gathering. Just gosh, that was just what 3 weeks ago.
Seems like it was a lot longer.
I know, it
so
does,
much has happened in the world.
I know, it just seems like forever now. But yeah, it was 3 weeks ago, and I have to tell you, I was looking around for a good headshot of Kristina. You know, one that I had handy and I could use, and I took a bunch of pictures, but I only got Kristina with other people, so I found one with her with Dan Spencer of at CA Yankee, and so I used that one, and I just got a message on Twitter about 20 minutes ago from Dan saying thank you.
I do love that picture. It's a great picture.
It's a great picture of both you and Dan, and so yeah, I was publicly thanked for having him including him in your picture. So there you go.
Well, Dan's a great guy, so I've always appreciated everything that he's done at Red State.
He's a great guy, and of course you're doing great work at the Foundation for Government Accountability, thefga.org. You guys are working on ways to reform government so that more of government's efforts can be moved to the private sector, where it can be done more efficiently, less costly, and actually get things done, as opposed to the perpetual bureaucracies of the federal government. And you're working at a couple of different things right now. I've got them pulled up here over on my screen. Now this one, the first one I want to talk to you about is the HUD audit, because housing and urban development exists so that lower income Americans can have a roof over their heads. Now, I mean, certainly the aim of HUD is it's a good cause. It doesn't necessarily have to be done through government, but the cause itself is a good cause. We want to make sure that people have roofs over their head, they have a place to live. Jack Kemp did some really interesting things when he was in HUD. This was about 17 years ago, 18 years ago, I guess, when Jack Kemp was in there. Or no, longer ago than that, because it would have been during the first Bush administration, so maybe 20-something years ago. And so, I mean, things can be done here that can work. But again, let me stress, Kristina, that we're talking about low-income families. Now, you guys have found that not everybody in a HUD house is a low-income family. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I did a write-up the other day on Daily Caller. There was actually a watchdog investigator who looked at the HUD housing rolls and found over 25,000 what they call over-income families still receiving HUD, still in HUD housing. And these are families that make well over the stated limits, the income caps. And in some cases, we're looking at, $200,000+ a year in income. In one case in New York, $497,000 a year in income. And that doesn't include another $800,000 worth of income that this family receives from rentals and other assets they have. So not only is HUD not enforcing income caps, they're also not enforcing any of the asset testing requirements that they have.
Yeah, I mean, isn't this supposed to be the basis of what HUD is supposed to be doing, is to test to make sure that the people who get into who use HUD services, taxpayer supported services, do so out of need, right? I mean, this is a means tested program. This is not the same thing as Social Security, which is not means tested. It's a forced participation.
Right. And the problem here really lies in what we call the redetermination process. So once a HUD tenant is approved, there is no other requirements for them to ever submit other income requirements or asset verification. And so in some cases, with this audit found that there was people that have been on the HUD rolls since 1974. And the purpose of HUD should be temporary assistance for families when they are in a crisis and they need housing. It should not be a long-term solution to a housing problem. And as you know, this report found, there was a lot of people that have been on the rolls for a very long time, some as long as 1974. That's 41 years. 41
years. And let me just offer a contextual thing here. Now, my wife is disabled. Most people know this. She's blind. Many of you who are watching this show have probably met my wife, or you've read some of the stuff that she's written when she was at Pathos in her, at that point, regular column called Guided Sight. She talked a little bit about the experiences of being blind. She went blind at a young age. She was 24 years old. And so she was on disability. And disability is one of those programs that you have to pay into, and you can only draw out to the extent that you've actually paid into it. So at 24 years old, as you might well imagine, you haven't paid much into it.
Very much.
You don't get very much on a monthly basis. You don't get very much. And that's fine because, I do well and I'm not concerned about that. But, this is the money that she receives for disability, and she maintains that because that's how she gets her health insurance and other things. I mean, there's a lot of things that get tied to this. So every 2 or 3 years, we get this letter in the mail that wants her to go to a doctor to certify that she's still permanently disabled. Now, this is a woman who is blind, mind you, one who has been blind for now years. I probably shouldn't say the years because she'll kill me. When she hears this on the recording, she's going to kill me if I start explaining what the age
you're telling
was.
her age
Yes.
now, and we don't like when you do things like that. Women are not generally okay with that.
It was 7 years ago. It was 7 years ago. Let's just leave it at that, okay? And but I mean, this has been going on, for quite a while at least. And when you don't get it done right away, they start threatening to yank your
Your
ostentatious
generous disability payments that she's receiving.
Exactly. And worse than that, though, of course, is the fact that then she starts losing her Medicare Part A, Part B, Part D benefits, which she does need as a kidney transplant patient, which you actually get anyway as a kidney transplant patient because of the way the federal government handles ESRD as well. So it's this big mess. And you have to send this thing in, and somebody has to say, yes, her eyes still don't work. Right. Every 2 or 3 years. So why don't they do that with HUD? I mean, disability is not a means-tested program. And they're doing this every 2 or 3 years. HUD is actually a means-tested program.
Right. Yeah. The HUD auditors asked basically a similar question of why aren't these, why is there no re-verification of your income? And some of the responses were, well, we don't want to kick these people out because it could, disrupt their life. It could disrupt their job prospects. And one of the excuses actually was that they thought it was a good example for these higher income people to be living there amongst lower income people because it gives them a goal of something to attain. And my first thought is, no, I mean, the goal should be to get out of public housing. The goal should be to raise your standard of lifestyle to where you no longer need that. But the way that the system is built, it seems to be that they're okay with subsidizing, very high income people as long as they can keep people dependent on the government. And everything that we do at FGA is to look at programs and find ways to make them leaner and more efficient and to be able to preserve the resources for people like your wife, the truly needy, people who have either paid into these systems and, need them, or, whether it's a Medicaid system and they don't have the other options, the poor, the disabled, the blind, the pregnant mom, the people who really these programs were set aside for. Yeah. These programs were not set to, whether it's Medicaid, whether it's, food stamps, whether it's these housing programs, these programs were not set to be there for people who are working age, able-bodied, childless adults who have other options. It was supposed to be for the truly needy. And, like we've seen with a lot of the Medicaid programs and such, unless and until state level officials really start enforcing the income caps, the asset testing, the eligibility requirements for these programs, we're going to continue to find a lot of waste and abuse, just like this report.
What's the free market alternative to the HUD program?
Well, I mean, when we're looking at ways, there's all kinds of free market programs. I mean, they don't call it Section 8 anymore, but they call it a voucher program, but it's actually a private program in a way because it is it's private owned properties that can then accept some sort of government funding. They can get a voucher depending on their income, and based on your income, that amount that you receive is higher or lower. And so there is income and asset testing there, and it is. I don't ever want to say that that a government program is the best option, but it's a better alternative than what we see with this HUD program in this audit, because there really isn't There's no income or asset requirements. All you're required to do is be a good tenant in good standing once you've been approved.
Right.
So we would really like to see, just like we've seen in Medicaid programs, the state of Illinois did an audit of their Medicaid program, found 350,000 people on their Medicaid rolls who were no longer eligible. That saved the state over $300 million the first year.
Yeah.
When we talk about resources being limited and people needing these programs, if we don't want to have situations like we had in New Mexico and in Arizona, where they started cutting off organ transplants for people because they were broke, if we don't want to see those sort of things happen when money runs out and state budgets dry up, then we've got to start being better about determining who is on these roles and then making sure that they're actually eligible.
All right. So the next story up, I know we've only got you for a short period of time too, so I want to get both of these things in, is the EBT cards. Now, this was supposed to be a big improvement over the checks that were coming in the mail that, sometimes can be and often were stolen out of mailboxes, and people who really needed the money ended up short. They had to try to find ways to get by for a few weeks while the check got replaced, et cetera. And the same thing was true, by the way, with Social Security payments, which is the reason why SSA really pushed to get everybody on direct transfer of funds. EBT, same sort of deal. It's it gets dumped into a bank account. You have a debit card. You can go out and spend the money with your debit card without having to have the money show up in your mailbox. Great. Terrific. The problem is that EBT cards get used for other things, probably just like the cash did. And honestly, you could probably have a little bit more control with the EBT cards than you could with the cash. But tell us some of the things that EBT cards are being used for, Kristina, because I know that this is something you've written about recently.
Yeah, it's happening a lot. It's becoming so commonplace to find during illegal drug bust, EBT cards among the paraphernalia that's confiscated, guns and drugs and, everything that you could imagine that comes along with that. And it is becoming a bigger problem. Fortunately, one of the states that is really taking this head on is Maine. They have began putting a person's ID, photo ID, on the EBT cards, because if you were to say I had an EBT card, Ed, and you were to go and check out with $400 worth of groceries, you don't look like I do. And the grocer at that point would then say, hey, I need to see some ID, make sure that this is you. And they could then, confiscate that and turn that in. But the way that it is now, those are being sold very frequently. We see that a lot on Craigslist, on other auction websites, people selling their EBT cards for cash, which, usually pennies on the dollar. And so one of the reforms that we're looking at really and trying to help legislators implement is IDs on EBT cards, because it does cut it down drastically.
It does cut it down drastically. There should be...
And it serves as a voting ID. I mean, we're killing two birds with one stone there.
Oh, that's a good point. You could make it into a voter ID because it would be a government-issued ID.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that kind of makes some sense. You almost wonder why you don't have your picture on your Visa and MasterCard and American Express for the same point. But
yeah, and we've heard from a lot of some of the DHS officials actually that especially elderly folks who have other caregivers and such in their home, whether they're family members or hired out help, they really like this idea because they feel like their benefit card is much more safe. Many of them have been victims of elder abuse. And so for them to be able to have some security there with their benefit card as well and know that it can't as easily be stolen and used for these sort of purposes, they like it as well.
Is this a state-by-state fight that you and FGA are fighting here, or is this something that the federal government needs to be involved in order to reach a solution?
Well, it is a state-by-state issue, and the federal government has given pushback to states like Maine, saying that they can't do that, and Maine has pushed back and said, oh, yes, we can, and they're doing it anyways. So it is a state-by-state fight. Same thing with the work waivers for food stamps. The federal government requires that anyone who receives food stamps for over 3 months, that they work 20 hours a week. And this is something that many governors, 44 states, have some sort of at least partial work waiver. And what we've seen since they have submitted that and said, nope, you no longer have to work to receive these food stamp benefits, that food stamp enrollment has skyrocketed. And so we are working in the states as well to get governors not to submit this work waiver and to actually reinforce the federal work requirements. Just reinforce the law. We don't need more laws. Just reinforce it the way that it is and help put people back to work.
So 44 states have waivers to this. What are I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but what are the states that don't have waivers?
I knew you were going to ask that. I knew you were going to ask that. Some of the states, like Louisiana, has a partial waiver at certain counties and disabilities and such. But overwhelmingly, what we see, some of the states are administrations that were like prior to this governor that they had submitted them, but some of them are, they're continuing their practice of submitting these work waivers. And again, Maine, we're looking to Kansas, these states who have continually really started to push back on a lot of this growth of welfare. And we're seeing in their states that people are coming off the welfare rolls. Maine had over a 70% decrease in able-bodied, working-age, childless adults who used to be on the food stamp system no longer are. And they are finding gainful employment or volunteer opportunities that are helping them increase their employability skills.
Well, Kristina, did some of these waivers, if I remember correctly, and I'm a little fuzzy on this, so tell me if I'm wrong, but a lot of these were put in place in the immediate aftermath of the financial collapse in 2008. Is that where most of those waivers came from?
A lot of them, some of them did, yeah. We saw this, of course, with, like you said, the downturn and the economy and, people really having a hard time finding jobs. But as employment has increased and unemployment has dropped, food stamp enrollment has continued to climb. And we were seeing some states, have seen 200% increase in their food stamp rolls, and at the same time have a negative job growth of 5 and 6%. Michigan is one of those states, Arizona, and it's really it's unfortunate because they've got an opportunity here to at least give people a chance to get out there. That when the longer you're out of the workforce, the harder it is to find a job.
Yes.
And one of the worst parts of these work waivers is that. And we're seeing that people are on the food stamp rolls longer than they've ever been before because of these waivers.
Kristina, I know I got to get you out of here because you've got another hit coming up, but thefga.org is the website where you can find out all the good work that the Foundation for Government Accountability is doing. And Kristina is on Twitter. Kristina. Boy, I'm getting more Midwestern as the years go by. At Kristina Ribali. The links are in the show post. Kristina, great having you on the show again. Good luck on your next hit on television, sure. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks
Appreciate
a lot.
it as always.
Kristina Ribali has been our guest for the second part of the Ed Morrissey Show, and now coming up, we're going to go ahead and have Mickey White join us, and I'm going to go ahead and give her a call. Mickey White is at Biased Girl on Twitter, and she is one of the co-hosts of the Jim and Mickey Show, T-Jams. And Mickey is on the line with us now, I believe. Mickey, welcome to the show. Let's see. Sounds like we're getting the microphone noise there, but Mickey, can you hear me?
I can now.
Oh, there you go. And
I just didn't have the microphone on me.
Okay, well, great to have you on. We don't have your video coming in yet, but I've got your Skype picture up online.
Okay, so. I've got the video running, so.
Well, even if we don't get it,
okay.
It doesn't look like it's coming through, so you might want to click the camera icon one more time.
Click the camera icon. There we go.
Yeah, we love Skype. There we go. Perfect. There's Mickey. Well, welcome to the show. Great to have you on. I've been on your show once, the Jim and Mickey Show, and it was a lot of fun.
Yes, and I really enjoyed your visit with us because you taught me about something that I didn't even know existed.
Oh, well, great. Yes. Well, and that would have been Marriage Encounter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So good. Glad to hear it. Now, I invited Mickey on here because Mickey wants to tell a story about what has been going on with her for the last few weeks. And she wants to be able to do it her way. Mickey's a friend, and she's going to talk about her story, and I'm just going to offer a couple of questions along the way. But Mickey, I'm really going to let you guide the discussion, so I'll let you start it off.
All right. Well, thank you, first of all, so much, Ed, for being somebody that I can trust and for being someone who really does seem to have their heart in the right place when it comes to what we do or what we try to do. And that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Just some real quick background information. This is, some of it's a little Twitter focused, so I apologize, but the majority of it is just this. There have been a lot of rumors circulating about what happened to me because I took time off Twitter. And apparently, people are then owed an explanation for that. And unfortunately, while I was off, I was actually dealing with a personal health crisis. And I'm going to get into that in just 2 seconds. But there were a lot of people who took that opportunity to spread rumors and innuendo and just flat out lies, some of which have actually impacted my real life. And that's the only reason I'm doing this. I just want people to know. I mean, legitimately, I don't know that I owe anybody an explanation, but I feel like I owe it to the people who did believe in me and who got taken in by some of these lies, and they thought that I was doing something against them. I would never do that. And anyone who knows me knows that that's just not the kind of person that I am.
Right.
But having said that, what happened to me was this. I was working on a book, which I've talked about. I was also very fired up about Trump, as you well know. I was getting attacked by what now everybody is getting attacked by, the sock puppets. And I got really stressed out. And I had basically, I don't know what else to call it, but some type of breakdown. And my family was terrified. They didn't know what to do. So they took me to a hospital. And I went to the hospital, and they admitted me for exhaustion. Unfortunately, because of the laws in Virginia and the way things are set up now, and I've already spoken to Cray Deeds about this, and I'll be speaking to his office as well. Because of the way things are operated here in Virginia, they make sure that you have a bed no matter what. And whereas someone like myself, who is admitted for exhaustion, should normally go to a state hospital, I was admitted to a place that is for drug rehab and repeat offenders. And I was really confused, as you can imagine.
Sure.
I also happened to have really strange reactions, adverse reactions to certain drugs. And, of course, what's the first thing that they give to someone that they think they need to calm down? Valium or some form of it, phenobarbital. I'm not able to take any of those. Never have been. I have the adverse reaction. Same with NyQuil. If I take it, I don't sleep. I'm up all night. And that's something that's been part of my medical record forever. We're just constantly adding things because we don't really know what all I'm allergic to. While I was under this duress, I signed some paperwork. Then they tried to get me to take more pills, and I was afraid, and I freaked out. And so they carried me, several of them, down the hall to solitary confinement. Mm-hmm. And they shot me up with something. I don't know what. And I was in solitary confinement for a while because I needed to get out to go to the bathroom. And they told me no. They told me I could pee in the corner if I wanted to. And in solitary confinement, there weren't any windows. There was just the little window at the door.
Right.
And so there was a nurse there. And I was like, I really need to go to the bathroom. And she's like, well, I have to get permission to let you go because I was being treated like I was a criminal.
Because of the hospital that you were in, because of the specific hospital.
Because of the specific hospital, because of the specific rules that are set up specifically here in Virginia. And so it was a weird thing that I learned the really, really hard way. However, I just want to tell you guys, I eventually got out of solitary confinement because I convinced them that it was inhumane to leave somebody in a room with no windows and no air conditioning and no water. Throughout my entire experience there, I was so confused because I couldn't figure out why I couldn't think straight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was because they kept giving me the things that were causing the reaction. I went in front of a magistrate. I was committed. I'm now fighting all of that because all of it was done while I was under not only mental duress, but medication that I was having an adverse reaction to as well.
Sure, yeah.
You can't imagine the hell that I went through. But what you really can't imagine is the hell that my family went through. And to see the people doing and saying the things that they did on Twitter after I came back, I was just so happy to be back. And I think a lot of people were like, well, you just can't come back. I didn't know why.
Why did it become such a thing?
That was what made me start looking into it. And what it really ended up being was there were a couple specific Twitter accounts that decided they didn't like what I was saying and again, people tweet all kinds of crazy things. Anyone who follows me knows that sometimes I tweet conversations, sometimes I retweet things, and sometimes I use Twitter as a way of kind of taking notes.
Sure. That's the way most of us use Twitter. I mean, it really is. That's the way most of us use Twitter. It's a social outlet. It's just a way of keeping up conversations. Absolutely. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And I love Twitter. I do. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. I love my peeps. I have a great time with them. When I came back, I knew, when I had shut down the hack, because I had been hacked that night, that's probably the biggest thing to clarify. When I started blocking accounts, it was because they were the sock puppet accounts that now everyone is dealing with. I just happened to get them first, apparently. And I started blocking them. Well, what I realized is in blocking them and reporting them, they then started blocking my real friends, like people I actually talk to on Twitter. And so keep in mind, I'm not online when any of this is happening. I hadn't had access to a computer in a week and a half.
Yeah.
I had been living my own personal private hell. I had a reaction the last night that I was in the hospital where I begged the nurses to call a real doctor and they wouldn't do it. I ended up throwing up for hours, and finally my husband, thank God for Todd, he got me out of there, and I came home and I got rest and I'm better.
Yeah.
One of the big rumors that was circulating, the people, I don't know. People say, high school is forever. Maybe it is. I think that one of the problems is, though, people make fun and we joke and we pick on each other, but there's something different whenever it turns into something ugly.
Yeah.
And people always want to be the victim. I don't ever want to be the victim. But in this particular case, I felt like I had to come out and say something because there were a lot of people who stood by me and then felt like idiots.
Well,
And I don't want, that's not right either. I mean, I found some accounts that were tying what they deemed my craziness, which really wasn't. It was just me tweeting. What they deemed my craziness to AFP, a great organization who had given me a fantastic opportunity to come talk about Twitter, which ironically was going to be one of the things I wanted to talk about was that, it's just Twitter and all the other lies we tell ourselves. Because people form real relationships on Twitter. And I know that it's not everyone's life, but I know that there are a lot of people who rely on those people on Twitter. And I felt like I was taken advantage of. I felt like more of the point, my friends were taken advantage of, my friend Kevin and Chad. And I can't even speak to what Jim Garrity must have experienced in the last week. And people knew that I liked Rick Wilson, so they attacked him, and they went after AFP too. I can only thank all of them for being good friends and being strong and not caving to the social pressures of everyone suggesting that, I mean, the rumors were from I have bipolar disorder, which, by the way, I do not. I suffer from anxiety and depression, just like I would guess 95% of the population. I'm not bipolar. I am not a fame whore. That was one of my favorites, that I was doing this for a publicity stunt. Yeah. Let me tell you, when you are laying on a concrete slab being told to piss in a gutter, it's not really for publicity.
Yeah. Well,
and so there are just a lot of things that I wanted to clear up. And if you have questions for me, I'd be happy to do it.
Well, look, Mickey, really the only question I've got for you is, how are you now? And what's coming up for you in the future? I mean, you've shared part of a story here that, you and I have been conversing for the last couple of days, ironically on Twitter through DMs.
Right. Because that's what we do, right?
That's what we do.
It's not because Twitter isn't a bad place, but you just have to be aware that things that happen there can affect real people.
Right. You have to be a wise consumer, and you have to be, just like you are in real life. I mean, I think a lot of times for people on Twitter, myself included, you forget that there are real people on the other end of those things.
Right.
But look, I mean, my big question is how are you now? How are you? First off, before what's next for you, how are you now? How are things going for you right now?
I'm good.
Good.
I am solid as a stone. I came home last week, and really, everything has been fine since then.
Good.
Everything has been fine since then, minus the fact that, I'm all excited because I finally finished this book, and I start promoting it thinking like, oh, yay, I can, finally talk about this book. And the first thing I hear is, oh, this was all a publicity stunt for a stupid book. And that's when I realized there was something going on I didn't know. And Twitter isn't like Facebook. People don't just, hang out. Posts aren't sticky, as they like to say.
Right.
So I knew that there was a reason that particular topic was still going on. And whenever I went down and found it is when I found the people that were intentionally lying to my real friends about me.
So at any rate, though, you are doing well.
I am doing well.
You are doing well. And
I honestly, I'm healthy. I'm happy. I don't know if I've ever been happier in my life. Overall, getting through this was a absolute nightmare, but I survived it, and that's kind of what I do.
How's Todd?
The pink hair was a result of that as well. It was, when you're in the hospital, and in my case, there were moments when I didn't think I was going to make it out of that hospital. I thought I was going to die there. Because of the situations that I found myself in. So when I came home and got rested and started feeling better, I've always wanted pink hair. And I thought, you know what? I'm not in the corporate world anymore. What is stopping me from getting pink hair? And so the pink hair makes me happy. So for those who were asking about that.
Well, if the pink hair makes you happy, I mean, let's face it. If I had hair,
well, and I kept telling my friends, it's not like I cut it. I just colored it pink. I can always dye it back.
Yeah.
And honestly, it wasn't my natural shade before this anyway.
Well,
so really not that big of a change.
Well, good. So things are good. Todd's good, right?
Yes. My Todd is good. My family is, they're healing. It was a hard time. We all are taking some time off because they certainly put me in there with the best of intentions. So imagine their horror when they found out how I was treated.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of complex, emotions involved here in my real life. And, for me, Twitter is kind of a respite too. So when it became a situation where I realized that if I could be attacked, how many other people out there are dealing with the same thing? Is this why we lose people from Twitter, from our movement? Because they just can't handle it anymore? All the negativity all the time?
Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean...
I think it's something worth considering.
I think you're right. So what is next for you, Mickey? What do you got coming up next?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do, Ed, is take a vacation.
Good for you.
It's been a bit. I'm going to be leaving here later in the week, and I'm going up to Pennsylvania. I'm going to see some friends from college, and I am going to get a 50th wedding anniversary party, and the theme is the 50s. So I actually get to wear a poodle skirt and the whole thing.
Oh, very nice. Oh, cool.
Yes, yes, I'm very excited about that. So I'm going to get to see some of my family members. Everyone's going to be in from out of town. That's going to be great, and that's a good thing. And then I'm actually planning a day with some of my sorority sisters and friends from college, because I don't get back to Pennsylvania all that often. So
Sure.
I'm making a kind of road trip out of this. I'm even hoping to swing by Hershey and see my friend Scott maybe on the way home.
Very nice.
So,
yeah, that sounds great.
But I'm going to take some time off. Jim and I plan to return with TJMs after the Labor Day weekend. And, it's all going to depend on how everybody responds to this. And if they believe me, great. If they don't, I can't do anything. But I wanted to be able to have an opportunity to, Twitter's hard to say it in 140 characters. Andrew Breitbart is the one who tells us that video answers everything, right?
That's the idea anyway. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point too. But yeah, I mean,
so I wanted everybody to see me and to know that I am okay and that I am me. I'm the same me I was. I had a really difficult time, but it wasn't anything having to do with you guys, I guess.
Well, good. And Mickey, I think we're just mostly glad that you're okay. And
thank you. And I want to thank everybody who held me up in prayer and who were concerned about me, because I have every reason to believe that is why I made it through the 5 days of hell that I had.
Well, thank you very much, Mickey, for coming on today to talk to us about this. And
thank you, Ed. Really, thank you.
And we'll talk to you again soon. And looking forward to the next T-Jams and everything else. But in the meantime, have yourself a great vacation. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. You have a great night.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Mickey White has been our guest for this part of the Ed Morrissey Show. I'm sorry, I screwed that up. There we go. Great to have Mickey on. Hope that that helped out. Look, I mean, I wanted to let her have her own story out there, and you're not going to get, I mean, nobody's going to have perfect knowledge of what happened, but now you have, from Mickey's perspective, what went on, and, she's a friend, and sounds like she's getting things put back together again. I think vacation from it all will be good for her, and just look forward to what's coming next for her. So want to thank her for again for being on the show today. I also want to thank Kristina Ribali, who's probably on like Fox or something like that, talking about FGA. She really did want to get on the show today. She had a hit at the top of the hour that she had to get to, or that she had to do. I assume she was doing it from there because there wasn't much time left. But I want to thank her for being on the show, too, because it's always great to talk to Kristina. And Dan, you're welcome. And, of course, Andrew Malcolm, the prince of Twitter, at @AHMalcolm. By the way, all the links are in the show post. So you can go back and check that out. Just want to thank everybody else who's been watching. I know we got a lot of folks who dropped by, a couple for the first time. You're always welcome back here at the Ed Morrissey Show. Great to have you with us. Let's go ahead and see who's with us right now. By the way, we will be having a show on Thursday. I'm not sure yet who's going to be on the lineup because Dwayne's still in Germany. So please keep Dwayne in prayer because he's still working on making his cancer go back into the cave and die. And things are looking good. I mean, if you're following Dwayne on his Caring Bridge site, things are looking good. The markers are looking good. By the way, you could help out by contributing a few bucks to the Fighting Cancer Fund, because obviously all of this is coming directly out of their pockets. This is the type of treatment that health insurance does not cover. Because these are treatments that are not available in the United States for people in Dwayne's position. So anything that you might have to offer, please kick it into the kitty. I know that Dwayne and Tracy would be very, very, very appreciative of that. I'm hoping that when he's back in town, which I think is going to be after Labor Day, we'll get Dwayne back on the regular rotation. We can talk to him about how things went in Germany and all that kind of fun stuff. But you can also follow on that. You can follow him on Caring Bridge and find out everything that's going on there. Let's see who's been in the chat room. Let's go ahead and play a little walking music at this point and see who's been in the chat room. And we want to, thank Monster was here, but he disappeared. Doggone it. Monster from e3gazette.blogspot.com and also at Sum Ergo Monstro on Twitter. You should follow him, but he's not here. But I am happy that the gang was all back together again because Duke of the Dance, Cranky T-Rex, crankytrex.blogspot.com, and writer for buzzpo.com, also a contributor at hotair.com occasionally, is here as he is every single show. Jazz Shaw joined us at Jazz Shaw on Twitter, and of course he's one of the editors at hotair.com. So he dropped in today. Great to have Jazz. Thanks, Jazz. He fought his way into the chat room. I saw that happening. So thanks for persevering, Jazz. All right, who else has been here? Don't forget to put your URLs and your Twitter handles up in the chat room. We're all about shameless blog promotion here at the Ed Morrissey Show. We got conservative and liberal hands. Fausta from faustusblog.com, a great Western Hemisphere blog. I read her every single day. You should as well. Little known fact about Fausta, she actually invented Labor Day. She did. She went back in time and invented Labor Day. It was the best I had, I'm running out of these things. Guelph, Ironked, Jeff Dunitz from jeffdunitz.com. He's also at truthrevolt.org. I think still there. He's at mrctv.org now. mrctv.org, working on things over there. Irantruth.org. I think he might still be at irantruth.org. He's everywhere. Just go to jeffdunitz.com and you'll find out every place that Jeff is at. jeffdunitz.com. Juanito Cabron, Mad St. Jack. Mad St. Jack is in the chat room. I had lunch with Mad St. Jack, what was it, 2 days ago? In Covington, Kentucky. Of all places. Mad St. Jack. It was awesome. Thank you very much for joining me for lunch, man. That was great. Mr. Fastbucks, one of the fabulous Tribbles, Opachenga, Prairie Dog SD, Rick 2, Talk Radio 200. T-Rand is with us, and even in his own name, what is up with that? What is the world coming to? The Right Scoop, the proprietor of therightscoop.com. And he's on Twitter at The Right Scoop, one of our good friends. Great to see him in the chat room again. Tracy Jeffords is new to the chat room. Welcome to the show, Tracy. Hope you're going to come back often and put up your Twitter handle, put up your blog URL. We are all little Trumps here, and we're all about self-promotion. Sorry. All right. And via Paso at the Ancestral Morrissey Mints. Hey, Mom. The first mate is in the other room, keeping me on the straight and narrow, but mostly keeping the little scribe on the straight and narrow. My youngest granddaughter is here visiting, so that is fun. All right. Don't forget, Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Central, 1 on the left coast. Don't miss a minute of the Ed Morrissey Show. We'll see you later, folks.